Hi, I'm Miss Cantor, and I'm the fourth grade literacy teacher. I'm going to be reading the chapter about Nancy, the art room turtle. Sometimes people come to visit Mrs. Hinkle's room and get confused. They ask, is he a turtle or a tortoise? Mrs. Hinkle says, Nancy is a she, not a he, and she is a turtle. Mrs. Hinkle and we think that there's a big difference between turtles and tortoises. We can't see how people get so confused. By the end of the year, the art class, Mrs. Hinkle's students will never again be the kind of people who get confused about this. Tortoises live on dry land, but we turtles spend most of our lives in the water. But sometimes we like to have dry land to crawl up on. My beautiful glass cage has both, along with the nice heat lamp to keep me warm. Nice, warm, and cozy. Oh, I'm sorry. I fell asleep under the lamp. Where was I? Oh, yes. I'm a mud turtle, so I'll never grow bigger than 6 inches. This makes me the right size for Mrs. Hinkle to sometimes take me out of the glass cage and set me on the table so the boys and girls can see me better. Don't poke at Nancy or try to pick her up, Mrs. Hinkle says. She's very shy. It's nice to have someone else around to explain that you're not unfriendly, but only shy. Mrs. Hinkle teaches art. Even though I'm shy, I like that children ask if I can come out of my cage so they can use me as a model. Mrs. Hinkle gives me a piece of melon or lettuce to munch on so that I will stay still and not explore the table too much while my picture is being drawn. I like to have my picture drawn, but I also like to draw my own pictures. Sometimes Mrs. Hinkle pours food coloring onto a piece of foil and lets me walk through it. Then she sets down a piece of art paper, and I walk onto that, leaving colored footprints with my little web feet. We don't put paint on turtle shell, Mrs. Hinkle says, but a little bit of food coloring won't hurt Nancy's feet. One afternoon, after waking up from a nap and finding that all the children, and Mrs. Hinkle too, had left, I was admiring all the new pictures Mrs. Hinkle had hung up that day. The children had been very excited and had talked about the artist who would be visiting the next day, an artist who was going from school to judge pictures and give out prizes for the best pictures. I think the best pictures are the ones with me in them. But all of a sudden, there was a commotion in the hall, so I pulled myself into my shell in case there was danger. Good thing, because the noise came into the classroom. A dog barking, a parrot was squawking, a squirrel was shouting, "Help, help! The nasty, smelly dog wants to eat me!" And a hamster and a rabbit and a rat were yelling, "Run, Twitch, run!" The wheels of the cart the dog was pulling went squeak, squeal, and the fish in the tank on the cart were yelling in the tiny fish voices, "Squall, squall!" Even with my head tucked safely into my shell, I could see well enough that Twitch must be the squirrel, since the others were telling Twitch to run, and it was the squirrel who ran up into one of the tables where Mrs. Hinkle keeps her art supplies. The dog jumped up there too. So much energy. It nearly wore me out just to watch them. Twitch leapt off the table and over to the bookshelves, pulling himself up by the art in the Western civilization, and the dog couldn't follow because the rope that tied him to the leg of the cart wasn't long enough. The dog ran back and forth on the table, knocking over paints and brushes and boxes of chalk. The paint was leaking and dripping off the edge of the table, making a puddle on the floor. I liked the slow, thick way the paint dripped, dripped, dripped. Where was I? Oh, yes, I recognized Twitch, since sometimes I had seen him look into the window of the classroom. But still, because I'm shy, I never talked to him before. But now that he was in danger, I wanted to help. It's scary when someone wants to eat you. I call over, "Excuse me, Mr. Squirrel, sir." This was very abrupt to me. Turtle manners call for long, slow, and proper introductions. But this was an emergency. I said, "Don't you have a hard shell you can escape into?" "Nope," Twitch said, springing from one bookcase to another. "Just fur." "Fur is not nearly as useful as a hard shell," I asked. "Do you have a stink gland?" "Don't I wish!" Twitch bounded from bookcase to Mrs. Hinkle's desk, to her chair, to the floor. My goodness, he could move fast. The dog could move fast too, but when he jumped off the art table, his fish tank cart swung around and knocked into my table. My case tripped. I pulled all the way into my shell again. My case teetered. I closed my eyes. My case tottered over the edge onto the floor. My case went, landing on its side. I rolled right out of it. By the time I decided I was still alive, Twitch had already escaped into the hall. The dog, still attached to the cart, ran out of the room with the parrot flapping her wings at him, and the hamster and the rabbit and the rat scurrying pretty fast too. The dog had left the trail-painted footprints from the table to the door. It was mean of him to want to eat Twitch, but I do have to say, he was a very talented artist. I decided to follow.
Hello, I am Angel, the 5th grade corn snake. Sassafras. Isn't that an absolutely delicious sounding word? I simply love saying sassafras. Society also has succulent syllables, as does suspicious. The society I am in is Mrs. Sahnessy's 5th grade classroom. Suspicious is how outsiders sometimes react to me because I'm a snake. They say I'm sneaky and slithery and have a slimy skin. Sneaky and slithery, yes, but stroke my skin and see if I am not slightest bit slimy. I have no fangs, no venom. I am a simply orange and black and red corn snake, as long as a 5th grader is tall. Mrs. Shaughnessy's syllables is history. Sassafras. History is such an excitement and interesting subject, besides being an amusing thing for a snake to say. History. After classes, I am somewhat solitary. A squirrel sometimes peeks in the window, but he slinks down again as soon as he spies me. Doesn't he know he's too substantial a mouthful for the snake my size to swallow? Only once a week I sup, mostly of frozen mice supplied by Mrs. Shaughnessy's. 6 out of 7 days I could be a safe associate to all the other class pets, including the albino rat, who sometimes scurries past my doorway fast, as though suspecting I would feast on him. It must be nice to have sensitive fingers to unfasten one's cell as one wishes and explore the school's silent halls. So I was pleased one after-school afternoon when a ruckus spilled down the hall and into Mrs. Shaughnessy's classroom. My tongue tasted a shift in the atmosphere. The squirrel and rat burst onto the scene along with the hamster Another excellent word. And a rabbit. From the hall came the sounds of a dog snarling. Leave me alone! This has nothing to do with you! While a parrot squawked, Ole, ole, keep away! In the classroom, the hamster saw me and squeaked, Yikes! This is the fifth grade where the snake lives. Snake equals danger. The squirrel tried to scuttle and shoved the rabbit, who stood betwixt him and the door. But the rabbit snapped, The snake's locked up, but the dog isn't. You're safer in here. So the squirrel hastened for higher ground instead. Up the window blinds he scurried, though they swayed beneath his weight and smacked against the glass. From there, it was a short distance to the long, narrow tube above the blackboard where the historic maps are scrawled. The squirrel paced back and forth above medieval Europe and Renaissance cities. From the hallway, we caught occasional glimpses of the dog as he sprinted from classroom to classroom, trying to escape the parrot's beak. For some reason, could not discern, the dog was towing a fish tank on a push cart, and from a slight distance, a sociable but slow-moving voice called down the hall, Hey guys, don't move too fast. In Mrs. Shaughnessy's classroom, the nervous hamsters ran around in circles and said, That turtle carries her shell around with her for protection. Protection against dogs, protection against snakes. Could we make some sort of a shelf for Twitch? The rabbit was looking at the shelves where Mrs. Shaughnessy keeps my supplies, including the large, lidless snake transport box. The rabbit suggested, or a shell to cover the dog. I deciphered the rabbit's scheme. I myself do not like dogs who sniff and snarl and sometimes eat a poor harmless snake who has no poison to protect himself. So I said I could help. The squirrel had misstepped and was dangling from the cord that lowers the maps. How? He asked. By eating me before the dog has a chance to. I've had my frozen mouse this week, I said. My stomach is satisfied till Tuesday. They all said, Yet. Set me free, I said. I'll distract the dog while some of you push the snake transport box off the shelf. Timed just right, it should tip over on top of him and hold him safe from eating any of us. I would never be so discourteous as to snag on schoolmates, except perhaps on Tuesdays. Besides, history teaches us that we are strong-willed with allies. Allies, the rat repeated, like fish in a school. Trust, I encouraged them. The rat, fearless, steadfast rat, scurried to my enclosure and shoved that screen aside. Just then the dog ran in, still attached to his cart, and snarling, Where's that less than worthless squirrel? The squirrel tried to scram back up the cord, unscrolling Renaissance cities, till Florence was on the floor. The blue and gold macaw flew into the classroom and squawked, "Send your dogs on the loose, so move your caboose. Everyone to your places, pretend you're at the races." No one told the bird her meter was off. I slithered onto the floor. Seeing me, the dog scuttled in reverse. If he could have scuttled up in his fish cart, I suspect he would have. He didn't notice the squirrel, the rat, and the hamster climb onto the shelf and begin shoving at the snake transport carton. The macaw saw and went to their support. The box moved closer and closer to the edge of the shelf. I hissed, poisonous, ferocious, causing the dog to back up closer and closer to the overhang of the shelf. The rabbit thumped her back leg, and the vibration was the last assistance that suspended receptacle needed. Over the edge, snake transport tipped, showering pine shavings of all on all. But the fit and our timing were flawless. The box landed just so to trap the dog, but not the cart inside. "Sassafras," I said.